Alright. I have started to realize I am not a professional YouTuber. I don't have to treat my channel like a professional YouTuber does. So I'm going to... Here's the plan, right? I'm going to read this entire book and give you my live reaction. And that's it. So here we go. David Lumen, you better surprise me, buddy. Chapter 1. When he was a little kid, an imaginative, adventurous boy named Steve discovered something amazing. An entrance to an abandoned mine just outside town. Who knew what thrilling adventures might await him inside? Wondrous caves, bizarre creatures, glittering treasures. But as he was about to enter the mine and start exploring, a scowling miner stopped him. "Hey kid," the miner barked, "can't you read?" He pointed to a sign. Absolutely no children allowed. Steve tried to dash into the mine anyway, but the miner chased him off. So instead of having exciting adventures underground, Steve did a terrible thing. He grew up. I'm glad they kept that line. I actually didn't. It's a nice line. Did a terrible thing. I grew up. At his boring grown-up job, Steve tried to find ways to be creative. He built dioramas. He wrote songs for his presentations. Wore costumes he sewed himself. That was not in the movie. But the other adults just laughed at all his efforts. Why, he thought. Why can't life be more interesting, weirder, more fun? As he toiled away in his drab office cubicle, Steve kept thinking about the abandoned mine he'd found in his youth. It wasn't abandoned, there was a miner. There was a miner in the mine. Look, it's right here. There's the mine. It wasn't abandoned. Okay. Something told him the answers he sought were down there below the surface. He had to go back and find out. And so, 30 years after he'd first discovered the mysterious mine, Steve returned to the entrance. It was still guarded by the old miner, but this time Steve easily got past him. He jerked to the right and darted to the left, calling out, "Head fake! He was in!" Down in the abandoned mine, Steve used a pickaxe to dig away at the sooty stone. At first, he found nothing, until one day he unearthed a shiny crystal box and a glimmering, perfectly square cube. The two mysterious objects seemed to go together, so he put the cube inside the box. Boom! A magic portal popped into view. It was a large rectangle, like a blue field glowing in a frame. Steve's eyes widened at the awesome sight. Sorry, just there's this. It's so funny that I don't know. I'm sure it'll get worse. I'm sure I'll sound like a broken record if I point that out right now. So I'll later on when I eventually say it again, I'll just say. I was gonna say this earlier, but sorry, what was it? Drawn to the portal, he stepped through and found himself in a strange, blocky wonderland. Yikes, everything seemed to be made out of blocks. A blocky bee buzzed by. A blocky sheep stared at Steve and said, "Bah!" Steve didn't know it yet, but this bizarre realm was called the Overworld. There was something about this place that inspired Steve, reawakening his creative impulses. He started by mining dirt blocks and stacking them into a simple house. The physics in the overworld didn't make a lot of sense. Sometimes blocks fell to the ground, and sometimes blocks fell to the ground, and sometimes they hung in the air. I would have used other times, but what's his name? David Lumen. David Lumen is not me. But somehow it all worked perfectly for Steve. He loved building and crafting to his heart's desire. As soon as he finished his first house, he went to work on his second. Moving on from dirt blocks, he discovered he could break trees into boards and planks. In no time, Steve built a wooden house, complete with towers and turrets. What? That was not in the movie, turrets. He let his creativity run wild. Steve's third house is built out of pink sheep's wool. Sure, it burst into flames almost immediately, but for a brief moment, the fluffy house looked awesome. Look, another time they've used awesome as an adjective. Awesome sight. To Steve, the overworld... Wait, it didn't burst into flames. In the movie? Okay. To Steve, the overworld was perfect, except at night when basically everything tried to kill him. Sorry, him! Exclamation mark. He huddled inside his house, shaking with fear. The house that burnt down? The house that burned into flames almost immediately? Burst into flames, sorry. He hid inside that house. That was a good plan. He huddled inside his house, shaking with fear. Zombies moaned outside, pounding on his door, while pale skeletons wandered in the dark beyond. But then one night he heard a snarl and a growl, and the moaning sounds faded. Was something scaring the creatures away? Steve cautiously opened his front door and peeked outside. The zombies and skeletons were running away. They'd been frightened off by a big gray wolf. "Hey, thanks, boy," Steve told the blocky wolf gratefully. Okay, "I think you just saved my life." The wolf turned its massive head towards Steve. Its red eyes looked menacing. It growled. Steve held his hands up, palms out. "Whoa," he said, trying to calm the beast down. "Easy, easy." Looking around for something to give the wolf as a peace offering, he spotted a stray skeleton bone. He picked it up and held it out at arm's length for the wolf to take. For a moment, the wolf just stared at the bone. Then the wolf's eyes stopped glowing red. Its mouth, full of sharp teeth, formed a smile, and a blocky collar with a name tag appeared around its neck. "Attaboy," Steve said, petting him. He read the name tag, Dennis. So he didn't even take the bone. What? For a moment, the wolf just stared at the bone. And then he was tamed. New update to Minecraft. You don't have to use the bones anymore. You just have to make the wolves look at the bones, and it works. Steve and Dennis quickly became the best of friends. Dennis loved to watch Steve chisel blocks out of the overworld's rocky cliffs with his trusty pickaxe. He also liked to throw a blocky disc for Dennis, who would leap into the air and make the catch. Most of all, the two pals loved to build together. When they finished a tall tower, Steve stood back with his hands on his hips, admiring their creation. "What do you think, Dennis? Should we call it the Steve Scraper or the Steve Needle?" Arf, Dennis barked. "Yeah, buddy," Steve agreed. "Nailed it. We'll call it the Steedle." That did not... We'll call it the Steedle. The next day, on their morning stroll through the blocky fields and the woods of the overworld, Steve and Dennis came across some strange ruins with a shiny black obsidian gateway. One block seemed to be missing from the gateway, so Steve quickly mined a block and set it in the cap. Okay, I don't know where you got that block from. Dennis sniffed at the chest next to the gateway. When Steve opened the chest, he found a flint and steel inside. The tools for starting a fire. Thank you for explaining that one. Steve struck the steel against the flint. "Shank, shank, shank." That's not what he said. "Shank, shank, shank." What is that supposed to be? Is that what the noise of hitting a flint and steel is? It's not even close to the game, if that's what that is. The game is just... It's clicks. It's... Flint and steel. Sparks flew toward the doorway, and it became a swirling purple field. A portal! Curious about this weird gateway led. Dennis darted through. "Dennis!" Steve cried, throwing out an arm to stop him, but he was too late. Ooh, spooky. I wonder who that is. Steve had no idea where the portal led, but he couldn't abandon his best friend. He took a deep breath and plunged through the glowing gateway. Looking around, Steve didn't like what he saw. Fire, lava, clouds of black smoke, and evil-looking pigs. Though he'd stepped through the portal early on a sunny morning, here it seemed to be pitch black night. Steve had left the overworld behind and descended into the nether. Aroo! Dennis, you motherfuckers. How many people proofread this book? I can't ask that because there's no public records of how many people proofread books. This is not supposed to be here. Okay? This is not supposed to be here. If a name or a word, but more commonly a name, ends in S and it's plural, meaning this, whatever this is, this what is it, a verb? No, a noun. A noun. A person, place, or thing. Action. This is an action word. I don't remember what that's called. I think that's a verb. No. A noun is a person, place, or thing. A verb, I'm pretty sure, is an action word. If this belongs to the subject, this S should not be. I'm not explaining basic grammar too. Anyway. And he sounded frightened. Steve ran to rescue his buddy, rushing through shadowy chambers. He soon found his wolf friend in a throne room, surrounded by pig-like soldiers known as piglins, though their bodies looked basically... Oh, I see. Sorry. I thought they said piglins up here, but they did not. So this is us being introduced to them. Though their bodies looked basically human, their blocky heads featured piggy eyes, ears, and snouts. They were ruled by an evil piglin sorceress named Malgosha. Holding a staff, the witch turned the page. Turned her frightening scowl on Steve. Her face was full of selfish cruelty. Steve stepped forward to confront the piglins and their fearsome leader. "Leave the wolf," he told them. "Take me instead." Malgosha turned her gaze upon Steve and smiled a cruel smile. "I have a better idea. We'll take both of you, and that orb." Steve had no idea how Malgosha knew he had an object. You can't say that. That's so stupid. Steve had no idea how Malgosha knew he had an object with him. You get to say an object. It's obvious when someone is holding an object. Steve had no idea how Malgosha knew he had an object with him. He was holding it in his left hand, but how the fuck would she know? He'd never thought of it as an orb, but he figured she meant the portal summoning cube he had found back in the abandoned mine. He quickly dug it out of his satchel. Okay, he wasn't even holding it. How do you know she was talking about that object? Maybe she meant the bag. Fucking object. He quickly dug it out of his satchel, saying, "Let's get one thing straight. Where I come from, we call this a cube." Malgosha snatched the cube from Steve and set it atop her staff, crying, "At last! The orb of dominance!" She turned to her piglin guards. "Cage them!" The piglins roughly tossed Dennis and Steve into a metal cage, slammed the door, and turned a key in the lock. Clang! Proudly wielding her staff with the orb of dominance on top, Malgosha immediately summoned her piglin generals. "Tomorrow," she told them, we shall bring our nether to the overworld." The generals nodded and grunted. Steve whispered, "We have to stop her, Dennis." The wolf stuck his blocky muzzle through the bars of the cage and slipped a set of keys off a piglin guard's belt. "Good boy, Dennis," Steve whispered, taking the keys. "Good boy." Later, once Malgosha and her generals had left the throne room, Steve tossed a gold bar down the hallway to distract the piglin guards, who seemed to be obsessed with gold, while he and Dennis escaped from the cage. They quickly made the how. Just the key? Okay, that was Machi. Okay. They quickly made their way to Malgosha's chambers. Steve was able to sneak in as the pig... I guess I never showed that. Okay, sorry, I'm distracted now. I'm thinking about the parallel to the movie again. Steve was able to sneak in as the piglin sorceress fed from her royal trot. What? Okay, slurp, slurp, slorp. As Malgosha snarfed down the disgusting slop, Steve snatched the orb of dominance off her staff. Hearing him, the sorceress looked up from the trough, slop dripping down her hairy chin. What? "Guards!" she screamed, sending nasty bits of food flying through the air. This never happened. Christ. Steve managed to get back to Dennis before the piglin guards caught up with him. He rubbed the orb of dominance under his armpit and held it up to the wolf's sensitive nose. "Dennis, quick!" Steve instructed. "Take the orb and the crystal box to Earth. Follow my scent to 149 Hollyoak Drive." Steve put the box and the orb into his satchel with a rolled-up note. And handed it to Dennis, telling his friend, "You're this world's last hope." "Arf!" Dennis barked. "No, not Avenue," Steve corrected. "Drive. Hollyoak Drive. Run, bud. I'll see you again. Run!" Dennis leapt out of the nether through the glowing portal as Magosha's piglins swarmed Steve. The brave wolf bounded across the blocky landscape of the overworld to the Earth portal. Soon he had reached Steve's house on Hollyoak Drive in a small Idaho town. Pushing past the flap of a doggy door, Dennis found his way to Steve's room and rolled the orb and the crystal box under the bed. Back in the nether, Steve figured that as long as the orb stayed hidden from Malgosha, the overworld would be safe. He just prayed some idiot wouldn't find it. Garrett the Garbage Man Garrison roared down an Idaho country road in his red sports car. He was a tall guy with big muscles, thick eyebrows, long hair, and a dark beard. His car was a little worse for wear, with duct tape on the bumper. The dashboard was covered with trash and unpaid bills. But when the engine made a funny sound, Garrett just turned up the heavy metal music blasting out of his sound system. Okay. He screeched into a parking lot of his video game store. Game Over World. Inside, Garrett walked past the video games, the collectibles, the arcade games, and the sign reading, "Gaming lessons, 50% off. Learn to win like a boss from the master." He paused for a moment to grab a video game trophy he had won back in 1989 and polish it on his shirt. The trophy was engraved with the words, "Gamer of the Year, Garrett the Garbage Man Garrison." Garrett knew those words by heart. It had been I hope so, that's his name. It had been the best year of his life. Back in his small office, Garrett improvised breakfast, searing a steak with a blowtorch and cracking raw eggs into a glass, a meal for a bodybuilder who wanted to bulk up. He scooped some protein powder and crushed. They love Crush and Love. We'll get to that. He scooped some protein powder and a crushed sleeve of cookies into his mouth, but when he tried to wash it all down with a carton of milk, he found that it was empty. He coughed out a cloud of dust. To keep his hands in shape for playing video games, Garrett squeezed a piece of grip-strengthening equipment and rotated 5-pound hand weights with his wrist. Then he plunged his fingers into 2 cups of ice, wincing. A short while later, Garrett played both sets of controls in an arcade game called Hunk City Rampage, switching back and forth between player 1 and 2. When he scored a bonus, he shouted, "Tell me you guys saw that." He was talking to 3 puzzled 10-year-olds. Leo, Greta, and Miles. They'd signed up for his video game lessons with the ex-champ, but his lessons turned out to be nothing more than making his pupils watch him play. "What? Why aren't you letting us play?" Leo complained. "The male lion hunts alone," Garrett answered, working the joysticks and buttons like mad. "The children get his scraps, and they are grateful." What the fuck is this? "But we paid you," Greta pointed out. "Aren't you supposed to be mentoring us?" Garrett's fingers were flying. "I am, by example. Hot garbage tip number 1. Well, you're not supposed to give that out yet. My tutelage? I don't know that word. Wow, that is... I don't know that word. Tutelage, I guess. Is best absorbed in total silence. The 3 kids exchanged looks. "I think we want our money back," Greta said. Ignoring her, Garrett kept playing even though his wrist was cramping. He played through the pain, finally beating the game's big boss. "Ooh-yah!" he crowed, bumping his fist. "I keep playing like this, I'll have my title back in no time." He proudly pointed to his Gamer of the Year trophy. Leo peered at the writing on the trophy. 1989? That's all of our ages ago. "Oh, I'm sorry," Garrett said sarcastically. "What year were you named world champion?" Leo had no answer for that. Garrett grinned in triumph. At the front door, a delivery guy asked, "Garrett Garrison? No autographs today," Garrett told him, figuring this guy was a fan looking for an autograph from his hero. Handing him a letter, the delivery guy said, "I've got your eviction notice." Why did they change the delivery girl to a delivery guy? What was the point of that? Garrett pulled the eviction notice out of the envelope, glanced at it, and crumpled it into a ball. He looked at the 3 kids. Class dismissed. See you Friday at 4. No thanks, Miles said. Yeah, your mentoring program sucks, Greta said. They laughed as they headed toward the door, with no intention of coming back. Garrett watched them go. He looked down at the crumpled eviction notice in his hand. He realized he was going to have to come up with the rent or lose his store. Garrett headed to a storage facility where the contents of abandoned sheds were put up for auction. He knew Daryl, the guy who ran the auctions. "Garrett the garbage man," Daryl sang when he saw him. "To what do we owe the pleasure?" Garrett was in no mood for pleasantries. "Pleasure? You think I come to storage auctions for fun?" He took Daryl aside. "I'm an investor, Daryl. A businessman. I need something I can turn into cash fast." Daryl grinned. "Well, you're in luck. You're gonna love this next storage unit. Used to be owned by some crazy miner guy." "Been sitting here almost a decade." "I'm listening," Garrett said, slightly intrigued. Consulting a list, Daryl said, "It's got a waterbed, some pickaxes, turquoise-colored shirts, just a tremendous unit." "Really?" Garrett scoffed. "It sounds terrible." "And," Daryl continued, saving the best for last, "I'm pretty sure there's a 1987 Atari Cosmos." Garrett's eyes went wide. "A Cosmos? Those things are worth a fortune." "Heck yeah, they are," Daryl agreed, smiling ear to ear. Garrett clapped a meaty hand on Daryl's shoulder. "Bro, if you can make this happen for me, I'll strongly consider hanging out with you." They're really going to make this turquoise shirt bit into the book. "What a treat," Daryl said, rolling his eyes. "Just keep the bidding under $100. Oh, they don't. I totally thought they were going to do the turquoise shirt bit. "What a treat," Daryl said, rolling his eyes. "Just keep the bidding under $100, Garrett assured him, "and all your dreams will come true." He fist-bumped Daryl and strode off, optimistic about his prospects. A few moments later, Daryl slammed down his gavel. A few moments later, Daryl slammed down his gavel. "Sold to our hometown hero, Garrett the Garbage Man Garrison, for $900. The other bidders wandered on to the next storage unit. Garrett looked pale. He wasn't happy about shelling out $900 he didn't even have yet. He signed a check, ripped it from his pad, and handed it to Daryl. "I wouldn't cash this for at least 6 months. Daryl stared at him in disbelief. Inside the storage unit, Garrett quickly found the Atari Cosmos box. "Come to Papa," he said gleefully. But when he opened the box, there was no video game console inside, just a bunch of junk. Junk? Just a bunch of junk. Just a bunch of junk. "No," Garrett groaned. No, where are you?" He frantically tore through the contents of the unit, searching for the Cosmos. He ripped boxes open and threw the contents outside the metal shed. Daryl ran up. "Whoa, what are you doing, man?" Garrett wheeled on him furiously. "There's no Atari in here." "Well, you can't just trash the unit. Not everything is about your unit, Daryl." Garrett collapsed into a crummy folding chair. I'm up against it, man. My store, my wrists aren't what they used to be. My mentorship program is hemorrhaging students. No matter how much protein I eat, my gains are minimal. I really needed a win today." He stood up and exhaled. Want to come hang at the shop for a bit? After what I witnessed today?" Daryl asked. "No, thank you. I've had enough garbage for one day." He turned and walked away. Shaking his head, Garrett took one last look at the junk in the storage unit, hoping for anything of value. He dug deep, and in the back corner he found a strange cube-shaped object. When he picked it up, it glowed with a faint blue light. Hoping it might prove to be worth something, Garrett stuck it in a weird crystal box into a burlap sack and slung it over his shoulder. While driving a sports car back to the shop, Garrett pondered his lousy life. How could things get any worse? Blam! The car's engine exploded. Black smoke billowed out from under the car's hood, blocking Garrett's vision. He ran his car off the road into tall grass. Christ. What the hell? That same day, a young woman named Natalie and her teenage brother Henry drove toward their new home in Idaho. While Natalie drove, Henry... This is 25 minutes already. I'm only on page 10. How? Is there a table of contents? No. Okay, let me just see what the last chapter is. Chapter 26. 13 chapters? It's already been half an hour on chapter 4. That would be more. That would be about 2 hours of reading. we'll go to chapter 10. We'll see where that takes us. I might have to do this in parts. I don't want to spend all night reading. Yeah, whatever. That same day, a young woman named Natalie and her teenage brother Henry drove toward their new home in Idaho. While Natalie drove, Henry drew a weird robot with pool noodle arms in his notebook. Chugless wasn't my first choice either, Natalie was saying to Henry, but Mom's dying wish was for us to live here, or at least that's how I interpreted it. I'm glad they added that line. I'm not gonna lie, because it doesn't make sense. Their mother, her dying wish was for her kids to move to Idaho? What? Anyway, Henry looked confused. Anyway, his sister continued, the rent's super low and I have a full-time gig. Not really a combo we can turn down right now. Yeah, I get it, Henry said. I promise you're going to love this place, Natalie told him. It's not just some small Idaho potato town. Henry frowned, looking puzzled, but that's kind of what it's known for. He kept concentrating on his drawing. Potato chips. Gwah! Henry and Natalie were interrupted by a frustrated scream outside the car. She and Henry both stared out the windows at a car by the side of the road with a smoking engine. A man was kicking the car's bumper. They didn't know his name was Garrett. Yet. On the outskirts of Chugless, they passed a huge potato chip factory. Out front, a big statue of a potato chip waved at them. A sign identified the mascot as Chuggy the Chip. Was that his name, Chuggy? I guess it is. I guess it was. Chugless, I guess, yeah. There it is, Natalie said proudly. The famous potato chip factory. Lowering his window, Henry asked, What's that smell, my future? Moments later, they pulled up in front of an old house, their new home. Their energetic real estate agent, Dawn Runcie, is that her real name? Was waiting on the... Runcie? I guess she never said that in the movie. Was waiting in the driveway. Natalie and Henry climbed out of the car, stiff after a long drive. Hi, Dawn, Natalie cried. Nice to finally meet you. Hiya, Natalie, Dawn said. This is for you. She handed her a gift basket full of potato chips. Oh, wow, Natalie said, trying to sound impressed. People love working at the potato chip factory, Dawn told her. Yeah, I'm going to be running their social media accounts, Natalie explained. I promised I'd get their follower count past 75. Nice, Dawn said. Nice, Dawn said, nodding. Just take good care of your face. Everyone who works there seems to break out like crazy. She smiled at Henry. What's up, Henry? I'm Dawn. Hi, Henry said. He noticed animals sticking their heads out of the windows of Dawn's car, which had a zoo on wheels deco on the door. What's up with the alpacas? Henry asked. Pretty self-explanatory, this guy realized. This guy saw the animals, saw the zoo on wheels decal on the door. You know what? I don't get it. I'm going to have to ask this woman what's with the alpacas. Doesn't make any sense, zoo on wheels. What the fuck is that? Well, real estate's not my only hustle, Dawn explained. I also do some mobile zoo stuff on the side. Check out this new jingle I've been working on. There's more music in the book than there is in the movie. What? She played a song on her phone, bobbing her head to the rhythm and singing along until she noticed the time. What was the point of that? Well, I gotta run. The mobile zoo must be on time. Madison only turns 10 once. Call me if you need anything. Thanks, Natalie said. Dawn put her hand on Natalie's and lowered her voice. Hey, I'm really sorry about your mom. It's a brave thing you're doing. Hope you know that. Moving to Idaho. So brave of you. In his new bedroom, Henry was unpacking books and framed pictures, trying to make the room his own. He set a photo of Natalie, himself, and their mom on a shelf. For a moment, he studied the picture, missing his mom. Feeling sad, he reached for a notebook of drawings and ideas. Getting his brain churning always helped him shrug off sadness. As he flipped through the pages, he heard a loud noise downstairs. Clonk! Henry, Natalie shouted, I could use some help down here. Finding the sketch of the robot he'd drawn in the car, Henry got an idea. He rummaged through the moving boxes in the hall, pulling out hair dryers, pool noodles, a coffee machine, wires, and batteries. In the kitchen, Natalie pulled a handmade pitcher shaped like a pig out of a box. Smiling, she carefully set the pig pitcher on the counter. Then she called out, Hey, I'm not gonna unpack this whole kitchen by myself. Get in here now! But instead of Henry, an odd-looking robot rolled into the room. Its base was a vacuum cleaner with hair dryers for engines blowing it forward. Its head was a coffee machine, and its arms were foam pool noodles. The whole thing seemed to be held together with red wires. "Hi, Natalie," the robot said in a high-pitched monotone. "I've heard a lot about you." A few sparks flew off the robot. Henry followed it into the kitchen. "Henry, what is this?" Natalie asked. "It's our new buddy bot." "What?" He explained. "He can help us around the house." "Here's a coffee while I vacuum," the robot chirped, "so you can relax." More sparks burst out of the robot's neck. Natalie frowned. "He's fine," Henry reassured her. "Don't worry about it. I've got a big day tomorrow, and this isn't helping," Natalie said. "Sorry," said Henry. "I was just trying to have a little fun." "I know," Natalie said, trying to be patient with her little brother. "It's just, every time you do, you ruin our stuff. Can you try to act a little more normal?" "I am normal," Henry said, offended. The buddy bot barked again. Rolling around and flailing its pool noodle arms, it knocked the pig pitcher off the counter. Smash! What? Natalie stared at the pieces on the floor, horrified. "Henry, Mom made that for me." "Oh my gosh," Henry said, equally horrified. "I'm so sorry." "Uh-oh," the robot squeaked. "I'm the messy roommate." What the fuck? I'm not going to say it. Natalie started picking up the broken shards of pig. "I don't think this crap is cute like Mom did, so grow up already." This conflict would have never been in this book if it wasn't for the fucking buddy bot. It was not in the movie. The buddy bot? What's the point? What is the point? The next morning when Henry came into the kitchen, Natalie was pulling a baking sheet out of the oven. "Hey," she said gently, "I didn't mean to snap last night. I'm just really stressed." No, it was because he broke the vase. Pretty sure that's why you snapped, not because you were stressed. It could... Okay, we're brushing off the vase, I guess. "It's okay," Henry said. "Check it out," Natalie said, holding up the baking sheet. "I made you Mom's famous tater tot breakfast pizza so you can handle the slices on your first day." Henry looked puzzled. "I thought you wanted me to seem normal, and now you want me to bribe people with slices of breakfast pizza? Bribe them to do what?" "And," Natalie continued enthusiastically and ignoring her brother's question, "I did a little digging online. Signature scents for young men are huge here. She handed him a canister, so I get you some body spray." Henry read the label. "Velvet Mischief. You want to spray it and then walk into it," she instructed. "Don't be too direct. It's very powerful." Is it a dash or is it a printing error? Oh, it's a printing error. Okay. Henry grabbed his backpack. "Hey," Natalie said, "I love you." "Love you too," Henry said. He sprayed the Velvet Mischief and walked through it on his way out. Natalie waved her hand. "Ooh, that is powerful." On his way to school with the tray of breakfast pizza carefully balanced on his handlebars of his bike. Ugh. Sorry. Henry noticed a Game Overworld video game store. Just his kind of place. He checked his watch, saw he had a few minutes to spare, and headed in, carrying the tater tot pizza. He looked at all the video games and collectibles. Then he noticed a cube sitting in a chest. Okay. Feeling strangely drawn to the curious object, he reached toward it. "Yo!" Garrett barked. "Not open yet." He was still sorting through the boxes from the storage unit. "So, I thought he only took a burlap sack home. Why does he have more boxes?" "Sorry," said Henry. "Your store is really cool." "I know," Garrett said immodestly. "Looking for anything in particular?" Henry shook his head. "No, just checking stuff out." "Non-committal," Garrett observed. Classic loser mentality. "I can help with that." He handed Henry that flyer that read, "Mentoring by Garrett the Garbage Man Garrison. Trash your old life and start winning. I'm starting a mentorship for people who want to win at the game of life. $50 an hour." "Cool," Henry said uncertainly, reading the flyer. "How do you actually win at life?" Garrett smiled. "Nice try. That is literally the answer I charge money for." He noticed the tray Henry was holding. "What's with the breakfast pizza?" "Oh, my sister made it," Henry explained. "I'm supposed to hand out slices at school to make friends." Garrett winced. Ouch. Then he sniffed. I notice you're also wearing Velvet Mischief. It's a great cologne. I strongly believe every young man should have a signature scent, but it may not be right for you. Harry turned his hand towards his shoulder and smelled himself. I don't think I apply very much, or I didn't think I applied very much. No one ever does, Garrett replied. Listen, I'm going to give you a free hot garbage tip. Friendship is like a puzzle. Sometimes you think it needs to have a lot of pieces to be cool, and sometimes just one piece is cool, and then people will say, that's not a puzzle, that's just a picture, and they got a right to speak to. He sat on the edge of his desk. Any questions? Yes, Henry said, looking baffled. Quite a few. My point is, Garrett said, there's no I in team, but there are two in winning. Okay, Henry said, sticking the flyer in his satchel. Why you gotta go to school? Okay, nerd, Garrett said. Just trust me. Leave the pizza. One of Henry's first classes was art, taught by Mr. Gunchie. Mr. Gunchie. Taught by Mr. Gunchie, who wore shorts, a turtleneck, and a whistle around his neck. All right, class. Mr. Gunchie announced after the bell rang. Let's all say hi to Henry. This is his first day in a new school. So, 1, 2, 3. Hi, Henry. None of the students said anything. A couple of them coughed. Hi, Henry said, finding a seat. All right, I'm Mr. Gunchie, the teacher continued. For those of you who don't know me, I teach gym, but now, thanks to budget cuts, I also teach art. He turned to the new student. Okay, we're going to shoot you. Oh my god, it actually is you. We're going to shoot you right out of the cannon, Henry. Okay. Today we're drawing a still life. He plopped 2 pieces of fruit on a plate. 1 orange, 1 banana. Let's get after it, people. He blew his whistle. Tweet! The students started drawing. Henry sketched feverishly, getting into it. Mr. Gunchie paced around the room. After a while, he blew a short blast on his whistle. Tweet! Just a short blast. Tweet! Okay, eyes up front. He picked up a drawing by a kid named Trevor and held it so everyone could see. Everyone have a look at this. Just incredible. I feel like I'm there. Trevor, what color would you say you mostly landed on for the orange? Trevor shrugged. Just your basic orange, I guess. Don't get discouraged, kids. Mr. Gunchie said, We can't all be Trevor. It would be a mistake to try. He tossed the orange to Trevor. Then he resumed walking around the room, inspecting the pupils' drawings. When he got to Henry, he stopped. Uh-oh, Mr. Gunchie said, making a T with his hands. Time out. He snatched Henry's sketchbook and showed his drawing to the class. It showed a banana with a detailed jetpack strapped on its back. This is not the assignment, Mr. Gunchie told Henry accusingly. Don't you know what a still life is? It means you just draw the thing. Well, I had an idea and kind of got excited, Henry enthused. It's a jetpack design I've been working on. It's not very realistic, is it? Mr. Gunchie interrupted, snapping Henry's sketchbook shut. Neither was Dolly's, Henry said, referring to the... Okay, so I paused initially because he didn't mention Dolly in the movie, and second of all, oh, that's my finger. First of all, he didn't mention Dolly in the movie. Second of all, why did he mention Dolly this time? But then it explains that after I realized why he was mentioning Dolly, so... Neither was Dolly's, Henry said, referring to the surrealist painter Salvador Dali. He figured any art teacher would know about Salvador Dali. Well, he figured wrong. Well, I went to Dollywood on my honeymoon, Mr. Gunchie said, fondly remembering his trip to Dolly Parton's theme park, and I don't recall seeing any flying bananas. Let's try again. He blew a few short blasts on his whistle. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Then he tossed Henry a pink eraser and walked back to his desk at the front of the classroom. That is. Trevor leaned over to Henry. That jetpack would never work. Yeah, well, if you calculate thrust to mass, it's kind of foolproof, actually, Henry insisted. It's just math. A friend of Trevor's leaned in. I'm glad they kept this. A friend of Trevor's leaned in. My dad says math's been debunked. Check it out, Trevor taunted. New kid thinks he's a rocket scientist. Henry didn't see how this could possibly be an insult. I would love to be a rocket scientist. Okay, Trevor said, so prove it. Henry got a glint in his eye. Chapter 6. Later that day, Mr. Gunchie, Trevor, and some other students gathered around Henry on the football field. He was putting the jetpack he'd secretly assembled in science class onto a skeleton he'd borrowed from the lab. As Henry checked his calculations in his notebook, one of Trevor's buddies stealthily cut a wire in the jetpack. "All right," Henry said, satisfied with his final calculations. "Count us down, Trevor." 5, 4, 3, Trevor and the other students chanted. Whoosh! The skeleton blasted off early. It spiraled into the distance, and they straight toward the chuggy potato chip factory. The other kids and Mr. Gunchy ran off. "I was never here, all right," Mr. Gunchy yelled as he ran, but Henry just stood there, unable to look away. Boom! The jetpacked skeleton crashed into a smokestack, knocking it into the Chuggy the Chip statue. The smokestack and the beloved mascot both fell into the river below the factory. Sploosh! Henry was immediately summoned to the vice principal's office. She told him, "The good news is no one died. The bad news is you've disrupted the supply chain for all potato chips all across America." "I'm so sorry," Henry apologized. "It was an accident." "This could be grounds for expulsion, Henry," the vice principal warned him. "I just need you to call your guardian." In the hallway outside the vice principal's office, Henry brought up Natalie's number on his phone. He stared at it for a second, knowing she'd be upset and furious. So instead, he called a different number. "Game over, world," Garrett answered. Mr. Garbage Man," Henry said quietly, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "It's Henry, the kid with the tater tot breakfast pizza." "Oh, right," Garrett said, remembering. "Look, the flavors are there, but when you cover the tots like that, they get all steamed." "Sorry," Henry interrupted, eager to get to the point. "Hey, I have a weird favor to ask. Can you come to school and pretend to be my uncle?" "What?" Garrett said, surprised. "No way, man." Henry checked his pockets. "I have $26. Garrett's car rolled up to the school moments later. Moments later? How did he get there so fast? The vice principal was waiting outside with Henry. Garrett jumped. Oh, God. Please don't drag this bit along. I see it ends here, so. The vice principal was waiting outside with Henry. Garrett jumped into the car and said, "Hi, I'm Henry's uncle." "You?" the vice principal asked. "The trash bag?" "Garbage man," Garrett corrected, smiling his most charming smile. She bought it. "Oh, you can bag me up and take me to the road any day. Just be careful, there's raccoons." Garrett took Henry back to Game Over World with him. "So what's the deal, kid?" Garrett asked as they walked into the shop. "Well, you hear what happened at the potato chip factory today?" Henry asked. Garrett nodded. The news was all over town. "That was me," Henry admitted. "Whoa, that was you?" Garrett asked. "You going to juvie or something?" He guessed anyone who knocked over the town mascot was bound to end up in a juvenile detention facility. Henry looked miserable. I don't know what's going to happen. But I probably just lost my sister her job." Henry opened his satchel. The flyer that Garrett had given him earlier was stuck between the pages of his sketchbook. When he pulled it out, the book opened, displaying one of his drawings. Curious, Garrett picked it up and flipped through its pages. Right out of his satchel? Okay. "The stuff ain't bad, kid," he said, impressed by Henry's drawings. "First banana in space? I dig it. Maybe I'm not the only true talent in Chugless." "Well," Henry said, "the entire world would disagree with you." He grabbed the sketchbook out of Garrett's hand, snapped it shut, and tossed it in the trash. Garrett winced. The kid really was having a bad day. But then, something in the store caught Henry's eyes. A cube in a burlap sack. It was glowing. "Whoa," Henry said, moving toward the sack. Hold on, my neck is killing me. I gotta reposition it. Ugh. Alright. "Whoa," Henry said, moving toward the sack. "What's this?" Garrett looked to see what he was talking about. "No idea," he admitted. "Probably some new age junk. I could let it go for around $900. Henry opened the sack. The cube lying next to the crystal box glowed brighter. "There it is. I wonder what it does," he murmured. The cube's blue light started to pulsate and sync with Henry's heartbeat. He stared at the hypnotizing object. Finally, he lifted the cube. Underneath, he spotted a worn sheet of paper with writing scrawled on it. "Wait, there's instructions," Henry said. "Never, under any circumstances, combine the orb and the earth crystal box." The Earth Crystal Box, he read. Garrett walked up behind him, entranced by the glowing cube. Here's one more fresh, hot garbage tip on the house, he said. Winners don't follow instructions. Henry nervously took a breath and placed the orb in the crystal box. Shoom! The combination of orb and box started pulling him towards the door. Feels like it wants to go somewhere, he exclaimed. Garrett flipped the sheet of paper over, finding more writing. Wait, he said. You didn't read everything. Do not follow this orb, even if you're a struggling business owner and need a ton of cash fast, because there's loads of treasure down here, but it's not worth the danger. He looked at Henry with his eyes shining. Treasure! He could save his store! Henry shook his head. I can't, man. Natalie will kill me. I've already caused enough trouble for one lifetime. Still pulsing with blue light, the orb shook in its crystal box. With a few of her petting zoo animals riding along in her car, Don, the real estate agent, pulled into Natalie and Henry's driveway, responding to Natalie's frantic phone call. Sorry, Natalie called, running out the front door. I tried everything. I don't know who else to call. I didn't know who else to call. Sorry. Gotta lock in. All good, Don assured her. What's going on? I can't find Henry. I tried the school. I tried his phone 1,000,000 times. He should have been home hours ago. I wouldn't have thought he'd still be in detention for killing... I would have thought he'd still be in detention for killing Chuggy. What? Natalie cried. That was him? Give me your phone, Don ordered. Oh my gosh, Natalie said, handing down her phone. I can't believe this. We're here for a day and already Henry's the town villain. Don used the Find My Phone feature on Natalie's phone to locate Henry. Got him. He's fine. He's just playing in a mine shaft. What? Don headed toward her car. Hop in. I'll drive. She handed Natalie a bag and nodded toward a llama in the back seat. Here, you can feed Mr. Scribble some of these busted carrots, and I'd do it now if you enjoy having a face. I really don't mind driving myself, Natalie said. The pulsating cube had led Henry and Garrett to the abandoned mine discovered by Steve years before. A rusty lawn warned, Danger, no trespass passing by law. Forget it, Henry said when he saw the sign. Let's go home. We can't turn back now, Garrett insisted. We've come too far. It's only been like 7 minutes, Henry pointed out. There it is. The name. Stand back, Hank, Garrett said. He grabbed the rusty chain on the gate and tried to break it. As he struggled, grunting and straining, Henry flicked the latch on the gate and walked through. Very good, Hank, Garrett said, covering. You passed the test that I planned for you some time ago. They entered the shadowy mine. The glowing cube lit their way as they walked past collapsed timbers. Look, Henry said, pointing ahead. Deep in the mine tunnel, the frame of a mystical portal glowed blue in the darkness. As they approached the shimmering portal, the cube in Henry's hand glowed even brighter. Looks like a treasure wind to me. What? Where did the wind come? What? Looks like a treasure wind. Is it wind? Like a treasure wind to me. Sorry, I'm not getting that sentence. Looks like a treasure wind to me, Garrett said slowly, amazed by the sight of the portal. I really don't understand that sentence. Looks like a treasure wind. Looks like a treasure wind to me. There's no mention of wind. I don't understand. Henry, what are you doing here? Natalie cried, rushing up behind them with Dawn. Henry and Garrett both jumped, startled. Natalie pointed her thumb at Garrett. Who is this guy? He's my new mentor, Henry gasped, still recovering from the surprise. Hey, Garrett said, smiling and raising a hand. I'm Garrett the garbage man. Sorry, what? Natalie asked. Hey guys, Henry cried. He was being pulled toward the portal by the cube. Garrett grabbed hold of Henry, but the cube's pull was too strong, even for a big guy like him. Natalie grabbed Garrett, and Dawn grabbed Natalie, but Henry was still being drawn into the opening. Henry, Natalie yelled, let go of that thing. Henry looked at the cube. Sure, he could let go, do the safe thing, the normal thing, but he didn't. Okay, I'm glad they didn't give any reasoning in the book either. There was no reasoning in the movie for him to still hold it. Instead, Henry closed his eyes and let the portal pull him through, along with Garrett, Natalie, and Dawn. hurting my elbow now. Oh, there's no comfortable reading and recording positions. First world problems. First world problems. Swoop. What? Schwoomp. Wump. Henry shot to the other end of the portal and tumbled onto the grass of the overworld. The orb in the crystal box flew out of his hands and landed on the ground. Lying there, Henry felt the blades of blades of grass between his fingers. They definitely felt weird, not like grass back home. Could they possibly be square? He sat up and looked. Oh my God! He sat up and looked around at the bizarre, blocky landscape. Wump, wump, wump. Garrett, Natalie, and Don came flying out of the portal, landing on Henry in a big pot. No! They didn't put this stupid... Dude, there's a scene in the fucking movie where it's fucking Garrett already comes out of the portal and he's standing up, and then Natalie flies through the portal, hits Garrett and goes like whoop, poof, and fucking ricochets off him, and Garrett is completely unfazed, and I wanted that in the book because it's so stupid. He's like barely even move. It looks like he puts more power into ricocheting her than he does in even taking any damage from being hit. It's so stupid. Anyway, groaning, they untangled themselves, stood up, and stared at the place they found themselves in. It was quite a sight. Everything looked cubic. The mountains looked like sets of stairs. Chunky clouds floated over them. A square sun shone in the sky. Scanning the countryside all the way to the horizon, they saw desert, jungle, tundra, plains, and an ocean in the distance. None of it looked normal. They really just who is I can't remember his name. I wanted to remember his name. David Lumen. Really just looked up. He went on fucking Google. He searched up all the Minecraft biomes. Desert, jungle, tundra, plains, and an ocean in the distance. Perfect. We got most of them. Badlands in the second Minecraft movie. It's happening, trust me. None of it looked normal. We're not... They kept this, though. We're not in Idaho anymore. Garrett muttered, amazed. No, he wasn't really amazed in the movie. Natalie shook his head and rubbed her... No! They didn't put the actual punchline. They just said, we're not in Idaho anymore. Oh, now I forget the punchline. I think this is... No, what's the punchline? I gotta go look it up. Hold on. Yeah. I think this is Wyoming. We're not in Idaho anymore. I think this is Wyoming. Stupid. It's funny as hell, though. Natalie shook her head and rubbed her eyes, refusing to believe they were seeing anything real. I think we're experiencing a shared hallucination. Group insanity. The French call it a... Why did you have to say that? The French call it a folie à deux. Garrett snorted. The French have some stupid word for everything. Amen, Garrett. Let's go. Shout out Garrett. Actually, I like this line better than the Wyoming one, I'm not gonna lie. That's just called language, Don pointed out. Who are you again? That was stupid. What is this? Was this just a poke at the French by fucking Newman? Gary Newman? Lord, what was his name? David Lumen. David Lumen's just taking shots at French people, I guess. Who are you again? Garrett the Garbage Man Garrison. Gamer of the Year, 1989. It's cool. I rarely think about it. Henry picked up the cube. It's not there, but that's in the movie. Henry picked up the cube, pulsating in his hand. It began to pull him again. Garrett, he said, this orb still wants to go somewhere. It's pulling me toward that weird pink thing over there. Garrett looked to see what Henry was referring to. When he saw a pink sheep, his gamer's instinct kicked in. A local beast, he said knowingly. If this is what I think it is, that's our first quest giver, he grinned. Hank, we're going to be rolling in riches very soon. I'll do the talking. Oh, yeah. Henry and Garrett hurried toward the pink sheep, tugged by the pulsating orb. Henry, Natalie called to her brother, "Get back here!" She and Don ran after the two treasure hunters. Yeah, because Henry also wanted treasure in the movie. That was a thing. Deep in the gloomy nether, piglins pounded gold into armor and weapons. The only craftwork permitted there was making things for war and destruction, or for the glory and honor of their leader. Malgosia smiled a sickening grin as she watched the top of her staff. Sorry, it really does hurt the back in that position. I'm like trying to figure out a better way to do this. Perhaps this knee. Malgosia smiled a sickening grin as she watched the top of her staff flicker and spark back to life. "The orb of dominance," she hissed, her eyes flashing with desire. "It has returned." She remembered how the orb had been stolen from her so many years ago, and who had stolen it. Flanked by 2 guards, Malgosia went straight to the dungeon where Steve was still being held prisoner. He was filthy, with tangles in his long beard and his hands chained to the rock wall. Despite the chains, he was chiseling a statue of the piglin sorceress. When he saw her, he dropped his chisel. "Malgosia, my liege," he cried. "Super stoked you're here. Would you like some glad tidings? In the form of a song I've written in your honor." He started to hum. Malgosia slammed the base of her staff on the stone floor. Bam! I'll take that as a no, Steve said. "The orb has returned," she announced. Steve's eyes widened. It can't be. Has Dennis brought it? "With the orb's power, I'll block out the sun and destroy the overworld once and for all," she cackled. "You stole the orb from me," she said, pointing her staff at Steve's chest, "and now you will retrieve it." As best he could, with his hands chained to the wall, Steve bowed. "It would be a privilege, my liege." "We're going to unbind you now," Malgosia continued, nodding to the guards. "Don't do anything foolish." "Of course not," Steve replied, but as soon as the piglins had freed his hands, Steve grabbed one of the guards' blades and held it to Malgosia's throat, shouting, "Sneak attack!" Laughing, Malgosia held up Dennis's collar. "Again! Do we not understand?" "Go ahead," she dared him. "Strike me down. My piglins will make a meal of your beloved wolf." "Dennis?" Steve asked. "Where is he? How do I know you're telling the truth?" That always happens. Every time I'm reading a story, it has to happen that I pronounce an R as a fucking W. "Dennis?" Steve asked. "Where is he? How do I know you're telling the truth?" "You don't," Malgosia said. "There's only one way to find out. The orb for your little dog's life." Chapter 9. Garrett, Henry, Natalie, and Don gathered around the pink sheep, which was contentedly munching on grass, ignoring them. Garrett stepped forward and spoke slowly. "Hello, wise quest giver. We humbly seek gold. Give us a quest that will lead to your treasure lode." The pink sheep just kept eating. "Garbage man," Don said. "I work in the animal shed." Don said, "I work in the animal field, and I'm telling you, that thing doesn't understand a word you're saying." Natalie gestured toward the cube in Henry's hands. "What is that thing? Why are we following it?" "Because it's going to lead us to treasure," Henry explained. "You seriously believe that?" Natalie asked. Yeah," Garrett said confidently. "Hank's holding the treasure magnet. We're about to be gazillionaires." He rubbed his hands together greedily. It's just a stupid word. Greedily. "This is not how you solve problems in real life," Natalie said, "with magic cubes." She started to walk off and said firmly, "Come on, Henry, let's go." "Yeah," Don agreed, following her. "I gotta get home and make a cheese board for a case." It's so random. What? I gotta get home and make a cheese board for a No. Quesadilla. I know how to pronounce that. Quesadilla. I can't pronounce it. I know how to pronounce it, though. I've heard it so many times. Cheeseburger for a quinceanera. Either way. Suddenly, the sky shifted from day to night. A cubic moon replaced the sun. A wolf howled. "Aroo!" "Great," Natalie said. "Now it's dark." "Did that sunset feel real quick to anyone else?" Don asked. The wolf's howl was soon followed by other disturbing sounds, gurgling, hissing, growling, and moaning. The sounds seemed to be coming from the dark woods nearby. Frightened, the pink sheep ran off. "Guys?" Henry asked nervously. "What's happening?" Shapes were moving in the darkness. All right, everyone, stay calm, Garrett said. Free hot garbage tip. Fear is just weakness, taking control of your body's cockpit. And if that happens, you can say goodbye to your body's plane navigation system. What? Natalie asked, utterly confused by Garrett's advice. Skeletons burst out of the woods. Armed with bows, they shot arrows as they charged forward. Henry, Natalie, and Don screamed. Garrett took off running. The others ran in a different direction, toward a stand of trees. As Malgosha looked on, the piglin guards escorted Steve to the portal between the nether and the overworld. Sorry. The portal shimmered with sickly purple energy. Find the orb, Malgosha commanded. You have three poop cycles. What? To complete this task, Steve made a face. I think you mean 3 days. Yeah, what is a fucking poop cycle? Gosh, you people are disgusting. What is that? That never... Okay. That's so stupid. Genuinely juvenile humor, and I'm falling for it because it's so stupid. Okay. Garrett kept running. Garrett kept running, arrows whizzing by his head. Looking ahead, he saw another horde of skeletons, Sorry, I'm still thinking about that line. Who immediately started chasing him. Bah! Garrett screamed. Not watching where he was going, Garrett fell into a deep hole. Whump! A cloud of dirt rose from the pit. At the bottom of the hole, Garrett winced with pain and pulled a pickaxe from underneath his butt. When he looked up, he saw skeletons staring down at him from the rim, fitting arrows to their bows. "Aw, no!" Garrett groaned. Out of desperation, he swung the pickaxe at the wall of dirt in front of him. Blocks of dirt disappeared, without really understanding how this was possible. Garrett swung his pickaxe again and again, tunneling horizontally away from the hole before arrows rained down on him. At the same time, Henry, Natalie, and Don ran through the woods. Cube-headed skeletons riding red-eyed spider jockeys, were closing in on them from all sides. "Run!" Natalie shouted. The spider jockeys fired their arrows, but instead of hitting their targets, they accidentally shot each other. Okay, that just makes them sound stupid. It makes more sense in the movie. They began to fight among themselves. Okay, that makes a lot. That's what happens in the game. That makes more sense. In the confusion, Henry, Natalie, and Don escaped into a clearing. Henry glanced back to see if they were being pursued. When he turned to look where he was going, he ran right into a tree. Wham! Wham! Man, wham! The orb and crystal box flew out of his satchel, landing in a pile of leaves. Natalie ran over to Henry. "Hey, are you okay?" Henry was staring at the tree he'd run into. The part of the trunk he'd smacked into had disappeared. The top half of the tree was floating, supported by nothing. Henry waved his hand through the space between the stump and the upper half. It seemed impossible. "Whoa," Henry said. Natalie stared too. "This can't be happening. Trees don't float." "Trees in our world don't float," Henry corrected her. He felt around the tree, thinking. Then he punched the trunk. Another cubic chunk flew out. He punched again, fascinated. They heard gurgling sounds. They all turned to see what was making them. "Gang," Don said. "We got a zombie problem." Yikes. Alright, so we made it to chapter 10. And I have a dilemma, because I want to make it to the line, you know? And I'm going to do it. It was a very short dilemma. The zombies were lurching toward them. Luckily, zombies are slow. Thank you for clarifying. Henry picked up a cubic chunk. There's no way they're going to keep calling them that. Cubic chunks. Instinctively, he half threw and half placed it. What? That's how lazy you're going to be explaining how you place a block. Instinctively, he half threw and half placed it. Okay. As he did so, it expanded into a large wooden block. He tossed more cubes, and they all turned into wooden blocks. Henry, Natalie snapped in place. Oh my god. Henry, Natalie snapped impatiently. We don't have time to play around with blocks right now. We're about to die. Henry stacked several of the blocks into a wall and kicked it. It held. The wall was solid. Nah, I think I can help, Henry said. Just let me. Fine, Natalie said, amazed by the wall. Oh, fine, Natalie said, amazed by the wall Henry had just built. She saw the zombies staggering toward them. Just do it, do it, do it! Christ. Henry leapt into action, knocking cubes out of trees, turning them into blocks, and building a structure for them to take refuge in. The structure grew quickly. Henry's improvised plan was working. Unfortunately, though, he'd forgotten what he'd left inside the orb and crystal box. He'd forgotten that he'd left the orb and the crystal box and the leaves outside the structure. Once Garrett figured he'd tunneled far enough away from the pit surrounded by skeletons, he started digging up toward the surface. Soon his head popped into the fresh air. He inhaled deeply, glad to be above ground again. Scanning the area, Garrett spotted patrolling spider jockeys. He stayed perfectly still until the coast was clear. While he was frozen, something snuck up behind him, a green creature, with a square head, a rectangular body, and 4 cube-like feet, 2 in front and 2 in back. Sensing something behind him, Garrett whipped around, startled, and punched the thing punched the creature in the face without thinking. The green thing looked stunned. Oh my gosh, Garrett apologized. Dude, I'm so sorry. A light inside the creeper began to pulsate, accompanied by a hissing sound. You trying to tell me something, little fella? Okay, so it's not going to be as funny when it explodes, because it didn't. Garrett asked, I didn't mean to punch you. You just totally creeped up on me. Not as funny as the movie. The movie, he gets blown up midway through. I'm so sorry. That's more funny than him explaining. I didn't mean to punch you. You just were totally creeped up on me. Creepy thing. The creeper exploded, blowing Garrett sky high. He fell to the ground, landing hard. Whomp. When he looked up, he saw spider jockeys coming his way. He also spotted Henry's cubic shelter in an open field. Garrett, Henry called from the top of the tower. Over here! Garrett ran, pursued by skeletons and zombies. As he headed toward the shelter, he spied the orb and crystal box lying in the leaves and scooped them up. Garrett, hurry, Henry shouted. As Garrett sprinted toward the tower, an arrow knocked the orb and crystal box from his hands. The box hit the ground and shattered into fragments. Without the crystal box, they'd never be able to open the portal to their own world again. How did they know that? Garrett picked up the orb and the box fragments and ran to the shelter, pounding on its wall. Help! Help! Zombies reached him. They knocked them away, but they kept coming back. Hank, he screamed, open the door. From atop the structure's roof, Henry peered over the edge of Garrett. There is no door. Hold on, I'm coming. Henry, Natalie warned. Her brother turned and saw a zombie coming up the stairs to the roof. I thought you sealed this place up. I did, Henry insisted. It's like it appeared out of nowhere. He, Natalie, and Don crouched, backing away from the zombie. Below, Garrett was doing his best to fight the horde of zombies that kept attacking him. There seemed to be an endless supply of the ghoulish fighters. On the roof, Henry sidestepped the zombie and kicked it from behind, knocking it off the edge. It plummeted to the ground, landing face down next to Garrett. Slowly, it returned to life. As another zombie tried to bite Garrett, Henry knocked out blocks from the inside of the shelter, yanked Garrett in through the hole, and sealed it back up. Inside, the two of them stood there for a moment, breathing hard. Garrett, Henry asked, why'd you leave us? Sorry, kid, Garrett said, affectionately slapping him on the arm. Dead dudes can't win Game of the Year. Henry looked confused and a little hurt. Why? Why would he be hurt? Outside, a creeper blew a hole in the shelter. Boom! Zombies and skeletons rushed in. Garrett and Henry ran up the stairs. On the roof, Natalie, Henry, Don, and Garrett huddled together, trapped. Guys, Garrett said, if I don't make it, tell my story in song. A heavy metal song, long, with chapters. To think we're all going to die, Don said sadly. I had things I wanted to do. Natalie held Henry close. I have one job, keep you alive, and I blew it. This isn't your fault, Henry assured her. She hugged him tight. Then they heard something. Clank, clank, clank. Okay, I guess I have to keep reading through chapter 11 to get to the line. Everyone, the zombies, the skeletons, and the humans, turned toward the sound. Why would the zombies and the skeletons do that? Though Henry, Garrett, Natalie, and Don didn't know it yet. It was Steve, tapping his sword against the rooftop's ledge. Hey, night jerks, he said. Remember me? Let's dance. Starge, what? Steve charged into battle, snapping a zombie's neck. Go to sleep, he told it. He headbutted another zombie and shoved him off the shelter. Spinning and swinging his sword, Steve mowed down monster after monster with incredible moves. Henry was amazed by the stranger's fighting skills. The sun rose, and the remaining fiends burst into flame. Steve knocked down one last dying skeleton with his elbow. Kill shot. Lame, Gear scoffed. Guy was dead anyway. Whoa, Henry said. Who are you? I, Stephen asked dramatically, am Steve. Peak Cinema. Okay. I'm stopping there. So that was about 10 chapters of, I have a record of where I left off, so I'm just going to close it. That was about 10 chapters of the Minecraft movie Junior novelization. I'll read the rest of it some other night. I didn't even read the blurb on the back, but it's probably not. Oh, I didn't even see these. I gotta read these as well. I'll read these when I come to it, I guess. Or maybe at the end or something. Okay, I don't know why there's a picture of a llama. Anyway, much different from the movie. I see what people are saying online. That's the only reason I bought this, because I had excess Amazon gift card money, and because I heard it was drastically different from the movie. I'm losing the ability to talk after reading. I can stream for like 5 or 6 hours at a time, but if I'm reading something, I like max an hour, and I've hit that. So yeah, this is gonna be a wild video. Genuinely, this is gonna be something I've never done before. I'm going to upload a hour-long video with little to no editing onto my channel, my main channel. And I guess it's just for people who can't read the book. I don't know. I'm just uploading it. I am just uploading it. There's no deeper meaning. It's my channel. I'm sorry for putting this at the tail end of the video, because you have to watch all the way through. I'm apologizing to no one at this point, because if you haven't watched all the way through, then who am I to apologize to? I'm sorry for making you watch all the way to the end to explain this, I guess. Or you could have just skipped through. Again, it's futile for me to... Futile. Can never agree with myself on how to pronounce that. Either way, it doesn't make sense that I'm apologizing. I forget what I was trying to say. My point is, I have realized that this channel is my own channel, and I don't need to adhere to any sort of standards, because the standards are frankly non-existent. They are non-existent. If you look back at my first videos, my voice ain't in it. There's no editing. It's literally, I was just showing at GD level. My channel started off as me showing off what I wanted to show off at its core. So I'm going to start doing that more often. I'm going to start doing what I want and posting it on my channel. And I can't guarantee that everybody's going to like it. But that's fine. Honestly, I think if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you're here for me, not for... Well, you are. You're here for me. And you might disagree with that. But that's the truth. Because I am not a crazy good Minecraft player or Geometry Dash player or builder or anything like that. There's nothing about my channel that remotely makes it special. You can find better people anywhere. But you are subscribed for me. And I appreciate that. Definitely not where this video is going, but I do appreciate that. I appreciate you guys liking me. And there might be, I think I have already said this, but I want to elaborate on this point. There might be a few of you saying, there won't be any of you. There's no way any of you make it to this part of it. It's literally an hour-long video. Some of you might be saying to yourself, I am not subscribed for this guy. He's fucking weird. I'm here for Geometry Dash content. No, you're not. Okay? You're not here for my Geometry Dash content because, one, I don't post Geometry Dash content anymore, and two, when I stream Geometry Dash, it is the most mediocre gameplay that anyone could ever put on the internet. It is probably middle of the road. Genuinely middle of the road. So, no, I am willing to put it on good authority that you are subscribed to this channel for me. And I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm going to start doing more of whatever I want. Yeah. So, thank you for watching, especially if you made it all the way through. Genuinely, thank you. I don't know what to thank you for. I don't make money off of these, so makes a little bit more sense when like bigger YouTubers with monetization thank you for watching the video because they get money. But just thank you for sticking with. Unless, you know what? I just realized there might be, if I like, well, I know exactly what I'm going to title this, but there might be people, some people coming, like, they don't want to read the book, so they're looking for someone to read it to them, or such. There's no way anybody's made it this far into the video past the actual book reading because I've been rambling on for like 15 minutes now. No, it's been like 10. Either way. So there might be people from outside of my channel coming to see the book, the differences, perhaps. Because that's a pretty big, well, it's a pretty small topic right now, actually, but I don't know how to put a nice little bow on this video, so bye. Wait. This has been aepuns, and the next time I'll upload a video is